you'd think I'd have this all memorized. Okay, now that we're recording, since we've done our around the room, we'll probably don't forget to reintroduce yourself when we get to things you want to bring up for discussion for good of the order and things that are going on at your hub. Just remind us of which hub you're with as you begin to speak, and we'll go ahead and start the meeting without getting someone to take minutes this time, because with the recordings and with a pretty detailed agenda already laid out, we'll just put in a couple of sentences of what we covered, and if anybody couldn't make it, they can watch the recording for the whole details. Anne, can you help me sort of watch chat? I see there's 3. Okay,
Yes.
Hosting a gin and tonic, great. That thumbs up to that person. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have a short video. It's 9 minutes. It's really inspiring, and it's 2 women. Let me get to where I can share my screen, who started the recovers.org effort. And the recovers.org is what we talked about early in COVID for those hubs who wanted to do some helping in their neighborhoods virtually without, being out, setting up a hub and doing something. So Homer Harris did one, and a group in West Seattle did one that I was involved with. But these are the 2 founders of it, and it's just a good refresher about why communication is so important in disasters. So I'm going to just share my screen, which is often scary because who knows what I've got up here. Are you seeing TED kind of video things? Yay, that works.
There's a large natural disruption here in town. We're here pulling trees from the ground, shattering windows, taking the roofs off of.
In front of our house in Munson, Massachusetts last June, after an EF3 tornado ripped straight through our town and took parts of our roof off, I decided to stay in Massachusetts instead of pursuing the master's program I had moved my boxes home that afternoon for.
So on June 1st, we weren't disaster experts, but on June 3rd, we started faking it. This experience changed our lives, and now we're trying to change the experience.
So tornadoes don't happen in Massachusetts. And I was cleverly standing in the front yard when one came over the hill. After a lamppost flew by, my family and I sprinted into the basement. Trees were thrown against the house, the windows exploded. When we finally got out the back door, transformers were burning in the street.
So I was here in Boston. I'm a PhD student at MIT, and I happen to study atmospheric science. Actually, it gets weirder. So I was in the Museum of Science at the time the tornado hit, playing with the tornado display. So I missed her call. So I get the call from Katria. I hear the news, and I start tracking the radar online to call the family back when another supercell was forming in their area. And I drove home late that night with batteries and ice. We live across the street from an historic church that had lost its very iconic steeple in the storm. It had become a community gathering place overnight. The town hall and the police department had also suffered direct hits, and so people wanting to help or needing information went to the church.
We walked up to the church because we heard that they had hot meals, but when we arrived, we found problems. There were a couple large, sweaty men with chainsaws standing in the center of the church, but nobody knew where to send them because no one knew the extent of the damage yet. And as we watched, they became frustrated and left to go find somebody to help on their own.
So we started organizing. Why? It had to be done. We found Pastor Bob and offered to give the response some infrastructure. And then, armed with just 2 laptops and 1 air card, we built a recovery machine.
That was a tornado, and everyone's heading to the church to drop things off and volunteer.
Everyone's donating clothing. We should really inventory the donations that are piling up here.
Yeah, and we need a hotline. Can you make a Google Voice number?
Yeah, sure. And we need to tell people what not to bring. I'll make a Facebook account. Can you print flyers for the neighborhoods?
Yeah, but we don't even know what houses are accepting help at this point. We need to canvass and send out volunteers.
We need to tell people what not to bring. Hey, there's a news truck. I'll tell them.
You got my number off the news? We don't need any more freezers.
And the insurance won't cover it. You need a crew to truck your roof.
Someone get me Post-its! And then the rest of the community figured out that we had answers.
I can donate 3 water heaters, but someone needs to come pick them up.
My car is in my living room.
My Boy Scout troop would like to rebuild 12 mailboxes.
The puppy's missing and insurance just doesn't cover the chimneys.
My church group of 50 would like housing and meals for a week while we repair properties.
You sent me to that place on Washington Street yesterday, and now I'm covered in poison ivy. So this is what filled our days. We had to learn how to answer questions quickly and to solve problems in about a minute or less, because otherwise something more urgent would come up and it just wouldn't get done.
We didn't get our authority from the Board of Selectmen or the Emergency Management Director or the United Way. We just started answering questions and making decisions because anyone had to. And why not me? I'm a campaign organizer. I'm good at Facebook, and there's 2 of me.
The point is, if there's a flood or a fire or a hurricane, you or somebody like you are going to step up and start organizing things. The other point is that it is hard.
Lying on the ground after another 17-hour day, Katri and I would empty our pockets and try to place dozens of scraps of paper into context, all bits of information that had to be remembered and matched in order to help someone. After another day and a shower at the shelter, we realized it shouldn't be this hard.
In a country like ours, where we breathe Wi-Fi, leveraging technology for a faster recovery should be a no-brainer. Systems like the ones that we were creating on the fly could exist ahead of time. And if some community member is in this organizing position in every area after every disaster, these tools should exist.
So we decided to build them. A recovery in a box, something that could be deployed after every disaster by any local organizer.
I decided to stay in the country, give up the master's in Moscow, and to work full-time to make this happen. In the course of the past year, we've become experts in the field of community-powered disaster recovery. And there are 3 main problems that we've observed with the way things work currently.
The tools. Large aid organizations are exceptional at bringing massive resources to bear after a disaster, but they often fulfill very specific missions and then they leave. This leaves local residents to deal with the thousands of spontaneous volunteers, thousands of donations, and all with no training and no tools. So they use Post-its or Excel or Facebook, but none of these tools allow you to value high priority information amidst all of the photos and well wishes.
The timing. Disaster relief is essentially a backwards political campaign. In a political campaign, you start with no interest and no capacity to turn that into action. You build both gradually until a moment of peak mobilization at the time of the election. In a disaster, however, you start with all of the interest and none of the capacity. And you've only got about 7 days to capture 50% of all of the web searches that will ever be made to help your area. Then some sporting event happens and you've got only the resources that you've collected thus far to meet the next 5 years of recovery needs. This is the slide for Katrina. This is the curve for Joplin. And this is the curve for the Dallas tornadoes in April, where we deployed software. There's a gap here. Affected households have to wait for the insurance adjuster to visit before they can start accepting help on their properties. And you've only got about 4 days of interest in Dallas.
Data. Data is inherently unsexy, but it can jumpstart an area's recovery. FEMA and the state will pay 85% of the cost of a federally declared disaster, leaving the town to pay the last 15% of the bill. Now that expense can be huge, but if the town can mobilize X amount of volunteers for Y hours, the dollar value of that labor used goes toward the town's contribution. But who knows that? Now try to imagine the sinking feeling you get when you've just sent out 2,000 volunteers and you can't prove it.
These are 3 problems with a common solution. If we can get the right tools at the right time to the people who will inevitably step up and start putting their communities back together, we can create new standards in disaster recovery.
We needed canvassing tools, donations databasing, needs reporting, remote volunteer access, all in an easy to use website.
And we needed help. Alvin, our software engineer and co-founder, has built these tools. Chris and Bill have volunteered their time to use in operations and partnerships. And we've been flying into disaster areas since this past January, setting up software, training residents, and licensing the software to areas that are preparing for disasters.
One of our first launches was after the Dallas tornadoes this past April. We flew into a town that had a static, outdated website and a frenetic Facebook feed trying to structure the response, and we launched our platform. All of the interest came in the first 4 days, but by the time they lost the news cycle, that's when the needs came in, yet they had this massive resource of what people are able to give, and they've been able to meet the needs of the residents.
So it's working, but it could be better. Emergency preparedness is a big deal in disaster recovery because it makes towns safer and more resilient. Imagine if we could have these systems ready to go in a place before a disaster. So that's what we're working on, getting the software to places that people know how to use it, and so it can be filled ahead of time with that micro information that drives recovery.
It's not rocket science. These tools are obvious and people want them. In our hometown, we trained a half dozen residents to run these web tools on their own because Katria and I live here in Boston. They took to it immediately, and now they are forces of nature. There are over 3 volunteer groups working almost every day and have been since June 1st of last year to make sure that these residents get what they need and get back in their homes. They have hotlines and spreadsheets and data.
And that makes a difference. June 1st this year marked the 1-year anniversary of the Munson tornado, and our community's never been more connected or more empowered. We've been able to see this same transformation in Texas and in Alabama because it doesn't take Harvard or MIT to fly in and fix problems after a disaster. It takes a local. No matter how good an aid organization is at what they do, they eventually have to go home. But if you give locals the tools, if you show them what they can do to recover, they become experts.
All right, hang on. I gotta stop whatever's gonna happen next here.
Well, a round of applause for that, Cindy.
Yeah, that's a great video. They made it in 2013, and I don't think I found it until maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and then lost it in my brain and then found it again. The first half was all good for us to go, yep, it's going to be a colossal cluster. And then the other half of it is where we go, they talk as though a lot of their infrastructure has stayed alive, the networks are up, and, that's kind of not when we'd be up there. We'd be there when no communication is there. But all those principles are there. If you can harvest the people who are saying, I want to help, and you may have to say, come back in a day or come back in 2 days. And then eventually, I know that we've got a lot of people in our communities who are going to look at us trying to do this analog for about the 3rd or 4th day and go, well, I got a computer and I can power it, and at least we can put our local stuff on a spreadsheet, so it will shift. And just knowing that if we ever got to where you could do a whole, connected to the network, and you were going to be wanting to do this for the long term, there is that shell organization there. And the recovers.org's the one in the brown dress actually either lives in Seattle or lives on Bainbridge Island. So she's now local. And when the West Seattle recovers.org group set up, they talked to her. They called her and interviewed her and, got some tips about it. So, maybe someday we can have her as a guest speaker. But it's just really inspiring to hear, it can be done. It can be done. You just got to be on top of it. So any comments, anything else from anyone?
Cindy, I'd like to know, she talks about a spreadsheet and you mentioned that too. And I'm just wondering if, in advance, we can figure out what that would need to look like rather than trying to reinvent it.
Her recovers.org, which is on the internet, or you just Google recovers.org and you'll get a map and it'll say, find one near me. And Homer Harris has a recovers.org in West Seattle. So you can go in it and you could even put something in and say, hey, Homer Harris, this is a test message from someone because I wanted to see how easy this is to use. I could ask Lee to talk about it, their experience with it next time too, because they just picked it up and ran.
Would it ever be the case that we get started on these now? Like, would we set these up now to relate to our hubs, that they would already be set up and we would have the address?
I think that's what I would want to ask her, because if you set it up and then it had to sit there for 6 years until it, you just have to have someone who remembers it was set up and who's got the password and who's got the admin rights, that sort of stuff. But it's something to think ahead for, which is why I showed this to start the conversation.
Yeah. Great.
So we'll do a little follow-up on that.
That would be something to write up on a sheet and have in your hub box, that kind of information.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so we'll go ahead. I'm not going to bring up the agenda because we're just going to plow through all this stuff. I get the first one, which is I'm going to talk about the city strategic work plan. And this sounds incredibly boring until I'm doing it for 2 reasons. One is so that you can all see what the city always seems to have in work, whether they get it done or not. They always have good intentions to get certain things done. And then there's interfaces with us, you know, so that's kind of the two things we're looking at here. So, oops, did I share my screen or did I forget that step? Are you guys seeing my screen? Oh,
No.
okay.
No,
Yeah, that's how that goes. Okay. Now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. So this, it covers a 2-year period. It's going to be 22 slides, and I'm sorry I had to do that, but I've highlighted on each slide the point I'm going to make, and then I will drop this into the Google Drive so you can go back and look at it afterwards. And I will be very clear that this is the draft. It hasn't been approved. Generally, between the draft going out and the approval, very little changes. So, you know, and what happens is I never seem to get my hands on the final copy. They say they post it to their website, but then I forget to go get it. So they set 3 priorities. All their strategic plans are set around these 3 priorities. First is really kind of internal. It's strengthening their capabilities for emergency management. The second priority is to be external, and it's encouraging, inspiring the community and working with the communities. And the third one is, it's a forward-looking goal. It's around innovative mitigation and recovery, which all happen either doing something before, you know, like fixing your unreinforced masonry buildings, or putting something in place so that recovery steps are done faster and easier. So if you're not muted, I'm going to start muting folks. Please mute. And then each of those priorities has got a series of goals and objectives, which is what I'm actually going to show you. So this first one, I got to move the faces because it's sort of covering something up here. There we go. So this first one, all these are priority 1. So this is their internal strengthening step. So, oops, so sorry. What I wanted to point out on here is they're going to have a whole series of exercises for their different departments. That doesn't affect us. That's just good to know that they're actually exercising their departments better than, you know, some kind of like fake every 3-year thing. They're really trying to get into that no notice. Guess what? We're having a drill with very short run up, and, you know, start your new job right now. And they're going to conduct a communications exercise, which we've heard about through the ACS team. And they're going to conduct a damage assessment exercise, which is all those inspectors getting out and looking at critical infrastructure and bridges type, you know, for assessment. So they're going to do those exercises so that they can come back and go, here's what we did good, here's what we need to improve on. The next objective is around preparing for Cascadia 22, and they are going to participate in that exercise. We were supposed to get some details about that today in the disaster management committee meeting, and there was technical problems. So we'll get the viewfoil or presentations here pretty soon, but that date will be June 2022. So we just don't know how many days it is and how we might be able to play. The third goal we actually got written into as a supporting agency. And so conducting the annual earthquake drill for the windshield surveys with the fire department, they're building off of last year's kind of initial engagement. So this year, sometime in the third quarter 2021, which was in September last year, it looks like we'll get to participate in a bigger way for their fire department exercise. So watch for that to come up. If anybody's got any questions, just belt them out because I can't see the chat at all. Then I've got a series of them that I pulled together that are around sheltering. So this first one is, what gaps do they have in sheltering capacity? So they are working right now on identifying locations and partners, and they're doing some building assessment and, you know, making sure they don't pick a shelter location in a liquefaction zone. So they're doing some GIS work to identify that, and then some community partners they haven't talked about. You know, is that the Red Cross, or are they having to build their capacity on that? And then building the training and guides that will help support standing those up. And then this goal, within 96 hours of a major earthquake, so that's still our 4 days, I believe, they can provide shelter for 30,000 displaced community members. And so you can see that that's their work this year. So it is really internal to them getting that training plan and staffing plan set up. So it looks like, you know, at the end of the year, we should know a lot more about what their plan is. And then by 2022, more know about who they think is going to run it and how they'll be stood up. And then the last piece of sheltering is they have a separate item for soft side sheltering plan. And that's because this one now falls into the responsibility of Seattle Parks Department. So they're working on what's the layout of if they identify sites in ahead of time that are suitable for soft-sided sheltering, you know, what's the layout look like? So we'd be really interested in hearing that, because if they've got a good standard layout that they're going to use in all their large parks, is that adaptable to something we could use in our small local parks if we are having to deal with people wanting to camp out in the first 2 days before we even have parks people we can talk to. So we'll pay attention to this one as it develops. Continuing on in this one, let's see. Oh, so this is related to sheltering. This is around the distribution of commodities and life-sustaining supplies. And so they're called CPODs, Community Points of Distribution. So they're really looking to make sure they, just like they analyze with the sheltering locations, do we have the best place with the best access in a non-hazardous area to do the best service to the people in need? And then where are we going to put those? You know, what's plan A, which is, gee, everything, the plan stayed intact and we get to set them up in our primary location, and what are backup locations? And then how will they be staffed? So that all should come through in 2022. And we got written into another one. This is situation awareness. I have a quote for you guys. In emergency management, it's said that no information is better than wrong information. And I went, well, that doesn't sound intuitive, because they all say they want situation awareness. And the trick is they want good situation awareness, because if they get the wrong information, they take action on the wrong information and they think they've solved the problem. And if they've solved it in the wrong way, they just go to sleep until you go back through the whole cycle and go, well, no, here's what's really going on. So it's better for us to not give them information that they will take wrong action and think they're done, than to actually make sure we know what we're transmitting in and send good information. So no information is better than wrong information. But in these practices, we want to keep practicing so that we can work that cycle up and figure out what it is that's most effective. And if they change their mind on what they're asking for, how do we make sure we adapt as people out in the neighborhoods, seeing what's on the street and get them the information they need. So I thought that was a cool one, that, you know, really situation awareness is finally maybe going to get discussed and locked in. One more on their internal communications. There is a state law that says that emergency management must communicate in the top tier languages of their jurisdiction, I guess. So within the city limits, we've got 7 primary languages other than English that are called the top tier languages. And so they have to make sure that they do all the Alert Seattle stuff has to go out in those tier languages. And so what they're trying to do is make sure that they can reach all the people who don't know about Alert Seattle, because they speak different languages and they don't plug into some of these online and technology-based information distributions. So they're building, King County and Seattle are both working on a thing called the Trusted Partner Network. And so that's sort of like the Vietnamese Cultural Association can say, yes, we will act as a trusted partner to the Vietnamese speaking population. And if we get Alert Seattle stuff, we will distribute it on through our natural networks to get the word out about boil water for the next 2 days or whatever needs to happen. So I just wanted to let you guys know that there's this thing called Trusted Partner Network, and they're looking for partners within that. And as they try and build this out, if you run across someone in your neighborhood that you end up going, like Cindy has the Vietnamese Cultural Association down the street from her, you know, you run those up the pole to OEM and say, hey, have you thought about these people as a trusted partner? But the city's out soliciting those partners right now. And one more, this is develop an emergent volunteer program. And so this is a good one. We hadn't seen this come out, that they have a plan and procedure so that unaffiliated volunteers can show up like after a Cascadia earthquake and go, I'm here to help. What do you want me to do? And the clue I get to who all's in this is WASAFE is the building inspectors. So they are really looking at making good use of volunteers for the big stuff that has to be done across the city. But also, you know, when we say, hey, I've got a guy who showed up with a bulldozer and he wants to help, you know, SDOT clear the streets, they have a way to bring those people in to help. So, you know, we've had some of this discussion with them before, but I've never seen it show up as a strategic priority. Oh, and so this one, I didn't think I had anything on here because it really is just, it's unsolicited donations. So like they talked in the video, you know, when you got people calling and going, I got another freezer for you. I do not want to handle that. I want the city to, you know, like I want to put the city to be in charge of all the external donations that are coming in, and they be the distribution network. You know, we'll have our hands full just managing our little neighborhoods, but they're trying to figure out how they make sure and do that efficiently. So that's good that they're getting ahead of that. I will mention right in the middle here, it says survey local VOADs, volunteer organizations active in disaster. That's actually how I met Zoe with the Church of Scientology. They are a member of the VOADs for the state of Washington, and they respond to different disasters. They've got a couple of great community leaders who come from California and help the state to do these different things. And so there are a bunch of organizations out there working that we don't even really know about that the city will use and deploy out. Last one, I think, is just because we're always interested in water and Seattle Public Utilities. So I caught that Chad has put, he's going to exercise his recently draft drinking water earthquake response plan. And so I'm going to call him and go, need any help? Is there anything we can do? Let us know. And then exercise the water distribution capability. And that sounds like it needs to be a physical thing. So I'm going to ping him and see what's going on with that. That isn't until, you know, early next year. So we got a little time to make that connection. So now we move into the priority 2. Was there any questions on those internal OEM and city departments? Okay, so the second set of strategic priorities is around community preparedness. And Matt had already talked to this. This is delivering a series of community presentations about how the city does planning and response to catastrophic incidents. And this is, he had already talked to us, starting in April, it's holding one monthly department webinar to explain to people how SDOT is going to respond or how Parks is going to respond. So I'm still waiting for him to release that schedule, but they've put it in as a goal. Then they're going to do, there's a movement to do an evacuation incident plan. And I haven't heard what the impetus of that is because, you know, we've never really talked about what kind of a disaster would cause an evacuation. But it looks like that they're going to hold some community input focus things at the end of this year. So stay tuned in case we put the word out and they're looking for people to attend. And again, that'll come back to not just us, but who in your whole community, who's vulnerable in your community that would have trouble evacuating, and making sure that they're at the table. And then they're building their volunteer ranks. They're trying to build up to, and I think they're getting close, a team of about 25 public education volunteers with at least 2 volunteers in each council district. So it makes it easier for the volunteers to go to local presentations and do outreach for preparedness. So Anne does that, Carl Leon does that. I don't remember if any of our hub captains on the call today are also in that, but there's
Cheryl does.
Cheryl, yep, that's right. So those are the folks that we're making sure, you know, get out and do all the, you know, prep stuff, talk for us. And then I don't remember how many, there's only 3 goals in this mitigation, forward-looking business. And I think I only pulled one of them. And that is the one about identifying community-owned unreinforced masonry buildings and trying to find partners who are willing to go apply for FEMA funds to get retrofits done. The city did their first kind of test where they got one bill, they got 5 million from FEMA to do I think it was Capitol Hill Housing owned, they changed their name, I forget what the new one is, but it's a affordable housing provider. And they
Community Roots.
Community Roots, thank you. They did a $5 billion retrofit on one of their buildings, and that was the first one, and it came out successful. So they're continuing to, go figure out how to get funds to do that. So the last 2 slides I've got are the training plan. So they kind of write this stuff in three different ways. So you could go through and you could see they had this exercise plan captured in the slides we already looked at. Here, Ivan, who is their training officer, has taken it and put, here's 2021, and the colors are not mine. The colors are related to this legend down here at the bottom. Green is mass care, logistic and supply chain, and critical infrastructure. But there's all sorts of, exercises and training going on here. And across here at the top is Partners in Emergency Preparedness, the Comms Academy that our ACS people are putting on. They highlight some of the things that go on that could cause them to stand up, like, they always activate for the pride, they always activate for the torchlight, whether they're expecting anything or not. It's, just kind of standard behavior in a large city. But I think it's in 2022. Oh, there's a comms drill here. There's a comms drill here in July. I knew there was one coming up in May. I didn't know what the July one is. So it's kind of our place where we can look at this and go, what's going on? What's going on? How can we participate? And then in 2022, it's not as well filled out, but here's Cascadia Rising. And then here's when the volunteer and donation management exercise happens. I was looking for the soft side shelter. I lost where that, oh, here it is. Soft side shelter. Something's going on here too. So the city's been pretty busy, developing their plans. So now it's just hoping we don't have another COVID outbreak, something else that, more protests that just, put everybody doing something else for months and, we don't make any progress. I know that there's been some slowness around the sheltering plans, getting those finalized. So hopefully we can get all that done. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Gabrielle. How is this tied or not tied to the current mayor and current administration that we have? Like in 6 months, could this all be tossed out the window and we have some new plan, or is there a really deep commitment to this?
I think that because emergency preparedness is like the lowest political interest of any incoming mayor, it took Durkin 3 years to get on the ball. I mean, she was pretty supportive of emergency management. She and Barb Graff had a good relationship. So she didn't actually take anything away from the department. She let Barb do her own thing. But Durkin has come along and said, I really think we need to prioritize earthquake. Everybody in the OEM's going, yes. So I think there's at least 2 years before the new mayor gets through all the other issues that are going on that are forefront to even think about screwing around with, is it, and what else could they do, right? The only thing they could do is take personnel away from the OEM to go manage the homeless crisis or some police department crisis. So I think we're on path to stick with earthquakes for a good 2 years right now. That's Cindy's bet, but who knows? I don't see any of the candidates so far coming forward with any kind of background or interest in disaster preparedness. It's all on the other issues. So other questions? Okay.
Cindy, just a comment. Today in the meeting, they talked about applying and staying in front of the accreditation process. So a lot of what they're doing it because it's smart, but they're also doing it because it meets, they have to meet requirements to be certified. So the wiggle room, I think, in their plan is less than you would think.
Yeah, they definitely have the plans. It's just what they're, is it, the only switch I've seen is like that takes over is when Homeland Security after 9/11 said, oh my God, we got to focus on terrorism. All the money from the national scene went to support Homeland Security terrorism. So everybody couldn't do much on preparedness of earthquakes because there was no money set aside for earthquake exercises. It was all around terrorism exercises. So that's kind of an unintentional redirection of your attention, but locally, I think it's going to be earthquakes because that's what we know. Okay, so moving on, now that I put everybody to sleep with a 20-page PowerPoint, we are going to do something Cindy's only done once before, and we're going to do a poll. So the topic on this poll is around outreach. Ann and I have been talking about, people are starting to get vaccinated, you can see the pent-up energy to go do something, and mostly it's eating out. But, we all want to kind of resume something normal, and we're trying to speculate on when do we think we're going to resume kind of normal outreach. And what we're worried about is that everybody's going to go, hey, Cindy and Ann, we want to do a disaster skills workshop on the 3rd week of August. And everybody wants to do it that weekend, and we don't have enough supplies to do it. We won't have enough people to do it. So it's not that we want to spread stuff out. It's just, we want an early picture of, what are you guys thinking out there? We talked about this at our last meeting. And so now we got to get serious, because now we're really getting there and vaccines are out. So it's more realistic than when we first talked about it. So pardon me while I do the poll. It's got 3 questions. The first question, if you say no, I'm not going to want to do an outreach event, you don't have to answer the other 2. For sure, you don't answer the second one. But if you go, well, no, but maybe, the third one gives you an opportunity to tell us when you might have better information. So I'm launching the poll, and I did not set a timer on it. I can see, this is how these work. I can see when you guys start clicking. So, Ann, can you use your screen to tell them how to bring the poll up? Just tell them what you're doing. I saw that wine glass. We talked about, where's my beer glass?
Yeah, I can see the poll, so I'm assuming everybody else can. Just click yes or no. So
okay, good.
Answer the poll, and then Cindy, you'll have to launch the results.
Yep, I am seeing people come in now. So, and I'll give you guys a couple of minutes on this.
Cindy, this is Andy. I voted no, so I didn't answer the next 2, and submit is ghosted.
Oh, maybe you have to choose.
Oh,
Yeah, same here.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
poop.
The logic tree is not working here, I think.
Well, I didn't get a logic tree, but
No.
I didn't know there was such a thing as a logic tree.
Okay.
So then just answer them, like,
Okay.
yeah, crap.
You have to answer them all. You have to answer them all.
Well, I guess if you said,
Yeah.
if you say no, just don't answer.
We'll
'Cause
figure
what
it
we
out.
really want to
Yeah.
know is when and what size. So if you answered no, just don't answer 2 and 3.
Okay.
You have to answer 2 and 3 in order to get the submit button. Just
That's okay.
ignore-
That's
Yeah.
okay. I don't need to know how many people said no, really.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I answered all 3 and submitted it then. It
Okay, well,
unghosted.
you've skewed my results, Andy, but that's okay.
Okay. Ignore me, just like everybody else.
I don't know if I can pick out if I did this anonymous or not. Like I said, this is my first one. Ann and I'll have to experiment because I didn't know you couldn't answer one. That's stupid.
Well, I think it went better than the poll earlier today did at the DNC meeting.
Yeah, but that's okay. The one where they couldn't even find it.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Okay, yeah, and trivia event's good. That's good. Homer Harris has got a trivia event lined up. I think it's coming up in the late end of August. Oh, in fact, I'll get that out. She's not here and I'll try and report on that on her. Okay, I'll give you guys about 30 more seconds. Okay, so I'm going to end the polling here. So we got about 13 of you that say yes, including Andy, but that's okay. Oh no, Andy said no, so that's all right. And it looks like overwhelmingly at the small and local level, which is great. I think it would be hard to get people at a sector, you know, just advertising in large events. So super. And then spreading out your information to know when you can get it to us. As soon as you do get information, don't wait till the April meeting. If you know, mid-April, you know what you're doing, send it to us as you get it so that we can sort of make sure that if we're needed to get any supplies to you, or there's, you know, some kind of a handout that we've already got that I got to deliver to you, or you need to borrow shelter tents, let us know. Wait. So sorry about that. Now, did you guys see the results now? Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
So cool. So, okay, sort of okay for the first one. All right, so thank you for that. Anne, is there anything else you want to say about outreach events?
I don't think so. The kind of the ideas we have is a trivia, which is an online, or it could be an in-person event. You could do a hub grand opening, which I know several of our new hubs are thinking about. You could do a drill where we practice and we get you some scenarios and you invite your community and have them practice going through the hub and answering, getting their needs met. The other one is the Urban Survival Skills Fair, which probably most of the folks on the call have seen or at least been sort of introduced to. But really briefly, we have gear and props for 17 different stations, and all the stations are learning a skill you would probably need after a disaster in a city setting. So how to sanitize water, how to build an emergency toilet, the smartphone apps you can download, what to expect at your kid's school. So what does a school reunification plan look like? So 17 of those. We have props, we have tablecloths, we have signage, and we have talking points for each of those skills. So you could do a huge long skills fair and cover a whole block. Every skills fair is its own canopy with a table, or you could have three topics. It's very, very scalable to whatever your needs are. So that's the overview of the Urban Survival Skills Fair. And then there's probably events we haven't even thought of yet. So would love to work with anybody on those. So that's it.
Okay, next topic is maps reprint schedule. So the city kind of only prints them out every 2 years. Gabrielle says would be fun to help anyone do. Oh, yes, anybody who has a grand opening will invite all the hub captains to come.
Yes.
Play a role or help explain or hand out stuff or see how their hub is set up. So on our map reprint schedule, every 2 year kind of cycle, except COVID sort of slid us even further than we wanted. I think we've got really only 3 outstanding questions, and then the city will be able to print those maps. But by tomorrow, our online version will be updated and with everybody who's had their grand opening or stood up so far. I usually put those on after the hub is stood up. So, but we will have those in plenty of time for those of you who are planning early outreach events. They'll be hopefully available end of April.
Cindy, question?
Yeah.
Yeah, is it still going to show the difference between enhanced and non-enhanced hub?
Networked and non-networked. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. New word. Thank you.
Yep. Next topic is the Immunities Protection Good Samaritan law change. Good news today. It was the public hearing was super fast. I mean, super fast. And it was talked in committee. I mean, it was the bill before it, they talked about it and they went into a 45-minute caucus and they came out and and they did the Good Samaritan bill so fast. They said, read it in, they read it in, they said, any discussion, no discussion, and they voted it out of committee, unanimous. So it was like moving through. So the next step is it goes to the Rules Committee, and I don't know if it works the same as at the House, but if the Rules Committee could say, we vote on behalf of the entire House of Representatives, it doesn't have to go to a full vote. Good, move it to the Senate. But the Senate may have to take a full vote on it. So I'll just have to wait and see what the next schedule is. But this looks like it's just gonna slide through, you know, I don't see any reason why it's gonna stop. So thank you for those who perked up and sent info in at the end. I will do better at saying, here's the deadline, because public hearings generally do have deadlines. I neglected to do that. I hope I never have to do another law again, but now I know the process. So. Hub and outreach and new hubs. So that's Anne.
So we talked about outreach. Let's see if I can. Oh, good.
Yep.
Can you all see my screen?
Holy crap. Oh my God.
Yeah. So this is Brianna's inconspicuous hub box at Maple Leaf Park. Yeah. And Jason, you said your box also has writing on it?
Yes, but mine's bright green writing.
Oh, is the box gray?
No, it's brown. Yeah. It's what I was expecting, just, you know, with a little extra lettering.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember that there was a supply chain problem with NAC, and they did ask about the Better Built, but I didn't remember seeing the sloping lid model. Oh my
Our
God.
NAC is
I will never use
sloping lid model.
What, Jack?
Our NAC is a sloping lid model.
Yeah, but you guys chose that one. These people chose a model that was a square, and you know.
We chose ours specifically for the park, one, so that it would blend in with the other boxes at the playground.
Yep.
And two, we was a little bit picky about the canopy, and I wanted one to be sure that I could fit a certain canopy in there.
Well, I need you to see if the canopy fits. If it doesn't fit, I'm going to throw a temper tantrum and get them to return the box, even though it's been silk screened, and get the right one. I will never work with the Department of Neighborhoods. At least the people that we've done this in 2 cycles for, never again. You know, fool me once, not fool me twice.
Is it possible? I'm actually more concerned than the canopy. I mean, although I am concerned about that too, but I'm actually more concerned about the location, because
the location we can move.
We can?
Yeah.
Because, okay.
We just have to get with Parks Department because they agreed where it was supposed to go. Right?
Okay.
Right, Ann?
Yes and no. Let's talk offline. I don't think I ever got a confirmation from them of where they thought they were going to put it.
Okay.
They just kind of blew past that piece. So
Andy, this is Andy. A comment for everyone. When we got our box for the Belltown hub, I think I may have been one of the first ones. Well, I guess I wasn't the first one to use that box from that manufacturer. There are YouTube videos. They pronounce their name Kanak, believe it or not, which makes no sense, but that's how they pronounce it on the company promotional videos.
Okay.
Take it for what it's worth.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we'll work the little trip up things here later, but anything else you have to say then about the new hub scheduling their grand openings?
no, you know, we're a little bit behind. That's me, not the hubs. Hopefully starting to order next month. Still working on and this is the grant where we're making videos, we're putting them in different languages, putting them out to reach communities that we don't typically access. And in payment for that, we get 5 new hubs.
Yep.
This is not, Brianna's is not one of those. Brianna is and Maple Leaf is a hub in a box. So we're mixing 2 different types of grant. But anyway, the grants are they're on track. Things are moving a little bit slow because of me, but we're getting there. Working on the video and trying to make it accessible for somebody that is blind or low vision. If they're listening to the video, can they tell enough about is the is the audio descriptive enough so that they can follow what we're talking about? So it's modifying the script so that somebody that can't see what we're talking about can actually follow along.
Did you want any of the hub captains, like one or two, just to read your script and just go?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In fact, I thought about just me reading it with the slideshow, taping it on Zoom, super low tech, and then sending it out and you know, almost asking people to close their eyes. Does this make sense? So yeah, I will definitely pick and choose, or maybe I'll just send it to everybody. I don't mind the feedback. This is not something, you know, Cindy and I are in over our heads with this stuff. We're learning as we go, and you know, we'll figure out how to do it really well about a year from now.
Yeah. But at least we can get the writing to be, you know, good, and people can go, yep, that makes sense. You know, I understand it. Yeah.
And there's lots of tools online. You can send your writings through. It will help you lower the grade level of the listener. It will shorten the number of syllables, shorten the length of the sentences, make it all much simpler. So we're using those as well as trying to get our message across.
And we'll come back to that topic when I talk another topic down here on the agenda.
And this is Andy Peck. I can throw a comment on that. If you look for simplified English checkers,
right.
There's some of them out there. When I worked for that large aerospace manufacturer, I had to write some manuals that could be translated easily. And that's the tool that I use. So it's not only lowering the grade level, but it's making it easy to translate in other languages.
Yeah.
Andy, send me
rare words. I've learned a lot about rare words.
Yeah.
Andy, send me those links, would you?
Okay, I'll make a note.
Yeah, just a couple of them.
Okay.
I only need one or two to put in the guidebook. COVID work group, we are made a ton of progress since the last time we reported out. The book is complete. Bill built us a whole new set of protective equipment with little pictures and kind of instructions on how to build your own barriers. And so that completed the book. We've got a set of signs, and I just have to get those signs translated into the 7 tiers. So that's one action for me. And there is a person at the Red Cross who is reading this COVID pandemic's protection to, you know, kind of go, yeah, you know, this is how, you know, it's pretty much the guidance we follow now from what they know from the CDC. So I forgot to bug her before this meeting and see where she was on that. So I'll do that. Who's coughing? Muted man. Andy and I are muting each other. Okay. So that should be in the next month, be ready to come out to you guys. The thing I think will take the most time is me getting around to getting those signs translated. The next thing is the shelter work group, which Kayla is not on the call. So we have written the book. There's 3 people on a team who are actually, you know, trying to organize it and put it in good context and make sure it plays. And then we've got a couple more steps. So it's a ways away. I'm not sure if it's going to be a topic for next month's deep dive because I've forgotten if the next meeting of the sheltering team comes up before that. So, you know, it's moving along. So you know, there's a couple things. One is thank you to Anne for all the work she's doing on the grants and the outreach stuff. Thank you to everybody who was on the COVID work team. Thank you to everybody who's on the shelter work team. When I look at all the stuff we're getting done during COVID, it's like, was there something going on that stopped us? No, there was not. You know, of course, virtual helps, but we're really getting a lot of things put in place. So, and then the next one is the teachable moment. Yeah, Vance, did you want to say something?
No, that's fine.
Okay. And the next work group that's going on is the teachable moment work group. So that's Anne, unless there's any questions about shelter or the pandemic books. Okay, Anne, go ahead.
So teachable moment, we're looking at trying to put something together that if we had a mild earthquake, not, you know, not everybody's, you know, really hurting, but a mild earthquake shakes people up and everybody tries to get prepared all on the same day. how could we as hub captains, if we were comfortable and, maybe COVID was a little less pervasive, how could we stand up and help guide these panicky folks to do something productive? So it's getting folks together and trying to talk through how that would work, and how can we put something together where we can meet people where they are, because there's going to be people that didn't even know we were in earthquake country, and there's going to be people that put together some kind of a kit 5 years ago and haven't thought about it since. So the range of people is all over the map. So how do we meet them where they are? One of the things that Cindy shared with the group, which was really fun and very invigorating, was there's a graduate student, and I won't give you many details, but they are out there and they are surveying a fairly wealthy community and a fairly socially, economically challenged community. And they're trying to decipher, is one of these communities more prepared than the other? Obviously, one has more disposable income, but are they truly more prepared? And they are not, sadly, weirdly. And what this grad student found in her research was the plan for most of the, it's just under 50%. The plan the plan for them to get water and to get food is to go to the grocery store and buy it. That is their plan. So if we can, the group thought, if we can get those numbers in front of people and teach them that you're in the majority of people that are going to be scrambling for the few resources that are on Fred Meyer's shelves, you really don't want to be in that position. So using statistics, using numbers to show that this is very common behavior, and it's really, really not the kind of behavior you want. So get this stuff taken care of. Don't put yourself in that bulk of people that are going to be running to the grocery store to buy their stuff.
As they should just have remembered from COVID, runs on grocery store.
Where we all ran out of toilet paper, even though there wasn't a need, but we still ran out of it. So you got to factor in human behavior. So that's kind of the approach we're going to take, is educating them that this should not be their plan, using statistics. Another thing that I wrote down, and I didn't take very good notes, but another thing that came out of this was some way to say, I will feel better about you if this is not your plan. If your plan is not to run to Fred Meyer or QFC or whatever, I'll feel better about you. I think it's a very easy thing to say to somebody, heartfelt, and maybe it will stir them. This is all about stirring them to, actually prepare and not fart around with it. So we have a group, the Eastlake Community Group is looking at maybe taking some of these ideas and making something, a product that maybe we can look at and mass produce and use in these little pop-up teachable moments. So that's kind of where we are. Still lots of work to do, but we're getting there. And I think those actual concrete numbers were really impressive. I think that will help really drive our point home. So that's the teachable moment.
Questions for Ann? And the goal is to have that ready in the next couple of months.
Yes. Yeah. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Well, it could even be, for the people who don't want to do an event actually for the summer, practicing a little teachable moment, just small, super small event. So
yeah.
The next topic is one more work group was, we were through Frank Gall, and I might have mentioned this last meeting. Frank Gall introduced us to a mapping application he saw demonstrated at the Disaster Management Committee, or one of the meetings he floated through. And so we were able to connect into the city. They've given the 6 sectors, the 7 sectors of the city. We've gotten a focal from each one of our sectors to learn this tool. And we all have had like 2 or 3 training sessions, and it just kind of makes your eyes spin. But what we're going to use it for is 2 steps to start with. It lets us assess what sort of damage happens, and the city uses it obviously to plan their responses and think about where they would set up sheltering. And you can do that using the statistics and data from simulated earthquake forces and the building structures on the ground. So the focals are going to do their first practice project, which is looking at every one of your hubs in their sector. So I'd be doing the Southwest sector, and I'll be mapping each one of those going, is this in a good place? You know, did we said it was going to be in a park, you know, and good. It looks like, you know, you won't have a lot of building damage around you that's going to affect the operations of your hub. There are others of you who are not in big wide open parks, you're in a little more dense area. West Edge is kind of my example. They're at the corner of First and Pike. So let's run the building assessment on that and see, you know, what, you know, is it really going to be a pile of rubble at First and Pike, and maybe they ought to move their hub a block down the street or something. So it's really looking at your hub locations for the natural hazards, which we didn't even often think about when we first set up our hubs for the early hubs. And then what does the building damage look like around you? And then the second view that comes after that would be, and then what is the damage area where if Cindy has a Church of the Nazarene shelter position picked in her neighborhood, and now I can look at it with this damage assessment and go, oh, it's predicting 100% of the buildings on that block will be damaged. I think that might be a bad place to set up my shelter. So we can make some smart decisions about partners that we're working with or where the damage is going to be highest so that we can think about how our reactions would be. We don't know that we can do all that. You know, that's the point of getting in and playing with the tool to see what comes out of it. So our group will meet next on April 12th and compare our results for what we're finding in our different sectors. I know a couple of you have been on doing it because I've gotten some questions, and that's good, you know. So you'll be able to see it. One of the things we've learned is we cannot possibly explain the science behind this to you, but we can give you the results. Yeah, everybody who's sitting through those trainings going like, nope, don't try and make me to explain it. So questions on that? And then we'll talk about what happens if it says your hub should move. You know, we really got to think about what the results are going to drive here. The next thing I have is going to tie into our next deep dive. So before COVID, I had started working on pulling together all the information about how to do outreach for your whole community. We had those deep dives where we learned how to do demographics, you know, how to look up who's in your community. So I pulled that all into one place, along with how to do, like Ann was starting to reference, how to do presentations for people who can't see, for people who can't hear, for people who can't get easily into building locations, you know, the mobility and access and functional needs. And so I test drove presenting that workbook on a community group that I'm associated with, and we managed to get through it without their brains blowing up. So I think it's ready for you guys. So what I'll do is I'll go through how you do outreach and how you, what these considerations are. And then the 15-page guidebook is for you to be able to go, okay, I am going to do better outreach to, you know, either targeted populations or better holistic outreach. And here are the steps I can see in this book that I need to take to change that. And one of those is just, who do you do outreach to? And it's got a whole list of potential groups to advertise yourself to get the word out about, you know, maybe your drill that you're going to have, or some presenter you're going to have at your next community association who's going to talk about preparedness. So that will be our next deep dive. It takes 1 hour. It was a perfect 1 hour. So I think the sheltering, unless Kayla tells me she's got something she really, really wants to get in, it'll all just be about the whole community outreach. I really encourage you to attend, because it's a topic it takes a while to get into, and we're going to continue to talk about it because, you know, we'll be saying, well, here's the Spanish version of our brochure, who needs it, and we need to get it to the people who have the Spanish speakers in their neighborhood. So doing that demographics, and I'll show you the demographics we've learned how to do for the new hubs. We're going to be giving them a set of who's in their neighborhood, and it's really easy to do. So I'll show you how to turn the crank on that. So any questions on that? So that was good timing in that you guys are saying, I think we're going to start to do outreach this summer in some way.
So Cindy, question?
Mm-hmm.
That you referred to the Trusted Partners Network before.
Mm-hmm.
And if we want to push things out into the community that are in translation, would that be a path that we could use?
It might be. They are just building that network, and so we don't know who they are. And part of what we have to be careful of is they're going to tell these trusted partners, oh, you only get about 2 texts a month from Alert Seattle, and so that's all you have to be engaged. And so if we start dogpiling on to say, oh, and we're going to show up every time we've got an event, it might work good locally, but citywide, I don't know how I would do that. So we're going to have to wait to see who their trusted partners are first, and then start to figure out how to interface with them. But I'm really interested to see that list.
Yeah, so am I, because I'm thinking a place like El Centro de la Raza.
Yeah, they are clearly on that list.
Right. Okay, we'll talk later. Thank you.
Well, I'll bring more to you as that, what they just had was the train the people who are going out to do outreach to the groups.
Right.
So they haven't even started getting their first crop of groups in yet, so.
Okay.
And the last thing I have on the agenda is it's just putting it out there because I just heard about it kind of like sideways on a bulletin board I see. The state has a program called Map Your Neighborhood. I know a lot of you guys like that program better than SNAP. And like Linda Norland has got almost all the Lakewood Seward Park organized around that. The city, for whatever reason, is stepping away from that. And I have forgotten what the new program's called, but they're phasing it out, Map Your Neighborhood out this year. I think it's called Prepare in 2 weeks, and going to something else, a new branded program. So if you've got groups out there who had committed to Map Your Neighborhood and are all about it, I need to go back to the state and go, what are you doing? Are you just going, oops, sorry, now you have to re-enroll in the new program, or are you going to keep Map Your Neighborhood groups alive with materials? What's the scoop here? So I don't know what the transition plan. I just saw that, so I'm giving you a heads up to pay attention if you see me talking Map Your Neighborhoods. Anybody, is there any other projects that I have missed, not got on the agenda? Can't imagine. I mean, like that was 90 minutes of stuff, but we still have plenty of time for around the room. So I know that folks haven't really, done, we're not out of COVID yet. So I think if we do around the room, I'd really like to hear if you had said, I want to do something small and local, what is it you're thinking of doing so that we can start sharing and getting our wheels churning? Or if you have done anything, let us know. I have two. One is Lee at Homer Harris is doing a trivia night, and I'm flipping through my day timer and I couldn't find it. So I'll have to send that out to people. I will ask her if it's okay if hub captains can come in and hover and watch how they do it, not play the game because all the answers, that would be cheating, and let if she's okay with that. I'm sure she would be, but I want to ask permission. And the second thing I have is that Ann and I did a presentation last week to FEMA nationwide audience. I think there was 400 that had registered, but only about 200 showed up. But it was talking about the hubs. It was doing our usual, what's a hub and why do we do them? So it was, thank God for Ann, because I accidentally turned off my audio and talked for 5 minutes and kept trying to advance the slides, and they're going, we can't hear Cindy. Ann, will you take over? And she's trying to advance the slides and I'm backing them up. It was hilarious, but it was only about 15 minutes a cluster. And then we all got back together again. But we've actually had contact after that with someone from, I've had one from someone in New Mexico, and then someone from Howard County, Maryland is really interested in setting something up, and she brings some real good talent to the table, and we're getting information from her. So a really good exchange for us. So those were my two things. Can I do the sectors, or how do you guys want to do it differently this time? Sectors just makes it predictable. Okay, let's start as usual in the Northwest sector. Any of the hub captains in the Northwest sector who are thinking of what they want to do?
I've been engaged with the communication checks, and I'll be interested to see, what comes out of that. But otherwise, no, not much else going on. That's Finney Hub.
Yep. And you
Okay.
meant the exercises that you just did with Anne?
Yeah, I did the Monday, fourth Monday check-in, and then following that, and Chris, no,
Yeah, Christian.
Christopher.
Christian, yeah.
Yeah, Christian. Yeah, set up a communication thing on Simplex channel to see what kind of communication range we would be able to establish if their repeaters were not available. It was very interesting.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Cheryl, I see you unmuted.
I'm not sure if Hugh is here. I was just talking to Hugh Kelso this afternoon. So I don't know, is he around? Is Hugh here?
I don't see him.
Anyway, he was doing the radio check and we were also talking about onboarding volunteer. It's the same old, same old. We have to be able to do something. He was talking about the possibility of using a church in Whittier Heights if it's open. I have to see if Loyal Heights Community Center would be open, like we could do something in the gym. I'm just not sure right now what's what, but I'm thinking like a 101, or if we could do something with the Urban Skills Fair. I mean, just something.
Yeah.
To get people interested.
Okay. Yeah, the facilities thing I hadn't really gotten to because I don't know when the city's going to open anything. So
right,
you'd have to be using personal church-like spaces. So okay, good. Thank you for at least talking out loud what you're thinking. So we'll go to Northeast. Jason, Brianna's given us her horror story. We've heard from Jason. Jeff, anything else from you? And then
I don't have anything more to share.
Okay, I have to actually catch up with Jeff or Jason and Brianna's comments about the box thing.
Yeah,
and anything
that's a
from
good
you?
email. I'm teaching classes. It's a series of 6 classes. These are preparedness stuff. It's not necessarily hub stuff, although the last class will be talking about hubs. So 6 classes, 6 Wednesdays in a row. Turnout's been pretty good. 87 people the first class and 54 last night. So kind of creeping down. I'm learning a lot. Taping the classes, cutting out all the ums and the so and all the other mistakes I make. And, so I'm becoming a video wizard and posting them on YouTube. So that's going on. Yeah, there's not much else. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do in Victory Heights, but like a couple other folks on the call, I'm interested in doing something. I'm tired of not having a presence.
And then you want to give the results, kind of rough overall results of your radio communications exercise?
Sure.
Nobody else knows what was going on.
Okay, so what we did was everybody in the north side of Seattle that wanted to play along that had a GMRS radio, we all listened in on the Monday Night Net, which is testing your equipment and testing the repeater. And the 4th Monday of the month is testing the Maple Leaf repeater, which obviously is the closest repeater for the north side. So we all talked on that, and then we would go to different simplex channels. So channels 001 to 022, we would go there. One of our members would count from 1 to 10, and then we would all come back to the repeater and everybody would let us know if they heard that person or not. We have a lot of hills up here. We are not able to communicate very well past the hills. So if the repeater goes down, it's not going to be pretty up here. But Christian did some research. It looks like the repeater is fairly well secured, decent backup system. So we are hoping that it will withstand a pretty strong earthquake and that we will continue to have the Maple Leaf repeater. We're going to do things a little bit differently moving forward, and we're going to slowly move into the digital stuff, which I know, some folks like Cheryl probably is just screaming inside her head, please no. But we are looking Cher's like, stop picking on me. We are looking at increasing our capability from a digital standpoint. So sending information digitally across GMRS radio frequencies. So that's coming. No, okay,
I don't think
maybe
you can
not.
legally do that.
Oh, okay.
Check with Ron.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we won't be doing that. We're also looking at testing the Magnolia repeater and seeing if, if the Maple Leaf one went down, would we have decent communication up here using the Magnolia one? So the GMRS radio conversations will continue, these little tests. And then I wanted to put a plug out for the North Seattle Hub meeting, which anybody's welcome to attend. It is not just us, but it is April 22nd at 7 p.m. So it's the alternate months when we don't gather as all hubs. So April 22nd, 7 p.m. It is on Zoom, obviously. And one of our speakers is Christian, who will talk about GMRS, maybe GMRS and HAM, how they should be working together. And then maybe our plans going forward for the north side and how we want to test our radio equipment. So that's it.
Do you know if you're going to have the early warning stuff?
I don't know yet. There's a potential for a speaker about the early earthquake warning system. Oh, hey, I want to put in this plug just because I don't know that I can abuse him, but I'm going to if I can. If you pay attention to this earthquake stuff at all, you will have heard the name Maximilian Dixon. He is in the Washington Emergency Management Department. So he's, I don't know, pseudo military. I don't know exactly what he does, but he moved into our neighborhood recently and sent an email to the community council here and said, hey, is the hub up and operating? I'm interested in learning about community preparedness in this community because now I am a member. So I think it's interesting to have him as a resource in our community. So we're starting the conversation, and I'll see what I can get out of him because he's really, really in the know and really a good speaker.
He's been assigned to help the rollout of the early warning system because he is the manager for all the state outreach, community outreach people. So that's the connection is, community outreach. So he, it's good for him to hear what the community really thinks or says or asks. So that's very good.
Right. Yeah.
Anybody else in the Northeast sector?
Yeah, Gabrielle.
Oh, sorry, Gabby. Gabrielle.
No problem. Patty's was here too. So yeah, I thought the radioactivity was really interesting. Patty didn't know a lot about the radio, so we got to talk to each other while everybody was checking in, and that was really fun. And I could teach her a little bit and try to articulate what I know, and there's so much I don't know. So Anne, I'm really looking forward to the radio meeting. Christian's definitely going to be getting a call from the UN because he's so diplomatic and how he dealt with each person on the radio. It was really wonderful to hear, and that was really fun. I have this idea that at some point we could maybe do a trivia night. I could connect maybe with Duffy, who's not far from me up in one of the big condo sites, and maybe with Matt in Ravenna. So we could try to cover a larger area of Northeast Seattle, 3 or 4 neighborhoods, and, not do 300 people, but see if we could get more than a very small group. And but I'm not thinking about that for a while, maybe in the fall, and see what happens.
Okay.
I don't feel very ambitious right now in terms of.
Gabrielle, could I get you to talk for just a second about the PSAs that you guys created? Because Ron.
Oh yeah.
Ron's connected with the radio group, and I can ping what's his name in Hillman City, who also works with the radio station.
Okay, so what we did in September was Anne wrote the text for about 5 or 6 PSAs. Several of them were very COVID related, like how to use bleach. And then some of them were more emergency preparedness related. So we had a mix of each. And PSAs have to be really, really short, like 30 to 45 seconds. And I'm involved with the Low Power FM radio station in Magnuson Park. And so the guy there and his lovely wife, Jenny, they recorded the PSAs, and they actually recorded 2 versions, a Space 101 version, and then a little bit more generic version that didn't mention our particular radio station. And we set up a little format of how they would be laid out. Like each one would say, here's another emergency preparedness tip for your household. And then we'd have the little tip, and then at the end, we would repeat the website. So we tried to make a little structure so they all sounded the same and had different website at each one. They're MP3s, I think, and they are available online. And I was thinking we should maybe pull out a couple of those and put in a couple new ones, especially we talked about how the earthquake warning system might be coming online. That was in September, and it might be almost online. And we could add in some other things and just, maybe keep a couple of the old ones and refresh them. And they're available to anyone. That's why we made 2 sets. So anybody could use them. If they wanted to get access, I can send you. I think I might have to add you in, but if anybody's interested, I could give you the link.
Okay. What I'll do in the minutes, I'll say, if you want the link, contact Gabrielle.
Yep, that's fine. Yep.
Anybody else Northeast?
Yeah, so I will be helping Gabrielle with trivia, I guess, in the fall, and get a larger community together. And I'm hoping for a low grade 4.0 earthquake in order to have the opportunity for a teachable moment, especially in my area where I recently found out that we are the convergence zone of 6 fault lines. So good information to get out there. So waiting for the 4.0.
Great. All right, we're going to switch it up and go down to the central, and we'll do Central West, Central Core, and Central East. So Bill or Frank?
I can basically start. I don't have anything new in specific to the Queen Anne Hub, but at the same time, the Mi'kmaq Hubs group, we meet sort of on a regular basis, and we also have a monthly Zoom meeting. It's the second Thursday of the month, where we actually spend an hour or two just talking about preparedness. It's sort of our outreach. We have a long list of email addresses, and so we promote it. It's not very well attended, but we reach out through all the Black Watch and all the people that came through the Urban Survival Skills Fair last year and stuff like that. So the Mi'kmaq Hubs group tries to do an outreach once a month, second Thursday of the month. Other than that, we're just waiting to see if we can actually get together and do something this summer.
Okay.
Frank?
Are you guys thinking of doing trivia on your Zoom night?
We haven't thought of that yet. No.
Okay. If you need help, let us know.
All right.
Yeah. Sometimes if you have a lot of business, you can't, squeeze it in, but if you can get in one round to liven things up, think about that.
Okay.
Frank, anything from you?
Yeah, a while ago, we did a simplex test of Mi'kmaq, and one of our group is going to be compiling the information on that and just how well we communicated. And I check in on the GMRS nights on Monday night, and I'm getting a lot of Charlie Mike 5 both ways from all of the repeaters right now. So whatever that means, that's encouraging. So
happy atmospheric conditions.
Exactly. But so anyhow, that's about it for now.
Okay. You guys are doing great. Thank you. Thank you for both your reports. I think then Central Core. And so this is kind of like we're shifting to that, Central Core. So Zoe, you fall into the Central Core, or I'm sorry, Zoe falls into Central West.
Oh, okay.
You're with the Queen Anne folks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good to know.
So Bill and Frank, I'll introduce you to Zoe, and you guys can work out if you want to join the Tuesday night outreach just to see what they're doing.
That sounds good. I like that.
Anything from you?
Yes, a little bit. We had just started our phases to bring the hub to life when the pandemic hit, and our church closed. Our hub is going to be located in our parking lot or the parking lot next to the church to the west, because that's a very big open space. So our next steps are just basically the 4 phases and getting our group together. And we have trained volunteer ministers who deploy to different areas of whenever there's a disaster. And oftentimes locally we get asked. So I have a group of about 32, depending, to 40 people. They live all over the place. So getting them together and basically drilling, and then we'll definitely focus on organizing ourselves and the basics of organizing ourselves for responding in the area to earthquake. So we're going to focus on that. And, it's just, we just haven't gotten started yet. And so but we're very excited about it, and know that we can help the community and organize with the other Queen Anne groups.
Their training was the last thing I did, before COVID hit. It was like, I think that was the late January, early February, and then it was just door slamming.
Boom.
So good, and good to hear your church is reopened so that you can actually do stuff again.
In January. And I just wanted to say one thing about that. The church has been doing a lot of outreach for helping people stay well and healthy. And this is one of the things that we do is anyone can come and see a series of videos that we've used to keep our buildings safe and all the buildings in the world, all the churches safe. And those tips are very similar to what Gabrielle was talking about, which is very interesting to me. And they're short little videos, and she's totally right, like half a minute. And those are all, and then there's we put together how to virtually entertain and uplift yourself. And that's part of artists from all over the world. And those videos are available in the church, and anyone's welcome.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So Central Core, so Steve isn't here, but Teresa is, and I don't want to have her jump in on her very first meeting. So Teresa, if you have anything, great. If not, no worries.
Well, I think the one thing that Steve was going to do is introduce me as the new hub captain of the Olympic Sculpture Park, and he wants to get another box in Central Belltown instead of North Belltown.
Yep.
So my goal right now is recruiting other members from other condominiums near me to be involved.
Great. I will have to talk to you about getting you on all our mailing lists and all the accesses and stuff like that.
I'll send you an email.
Perfect. Good. And I know that Steve, I don't know that he knows where he's going to go. Belltown is such a dense area. It's almost got no open spaces. Originally, before we found Olympic Sculpture Park, they were looking at diamond parking lots, and even those are disappearing. So it's like,
yeah, well, we do have that new space now that is over where the viaduct was.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be turned into a green space.
Yep.
Obviously, the one at the Pike Place Market might want to move there. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll kind of get that Central Core back together again. Lucky Margaret, who lives not downtown, but over on East Lake, is kind of doing your research for you on your one concern. And so we're kind of going, this is a really weird shaped thing, but working together at least gets some subgroups jump started. So welcome. Thank you for coming, and thank you for just jumping in there.
Sure.
Margaret, you got anything tonight?
We are going to be meeting on April 5th to talk about messaging, referencing what Anne was talking about. I like the idea we'll have a product, but we're going to aim to. We have some people who are really good at messaging. So in fact, one of our members is going to lead that one. And we do want to do outreach. We have a site that's offered to help us set up a table and our group really wants to do outreach. So we'll be probably doing, I think they suggested the members want to do 2 hours once a month out in front of a little supermarket that a lot of people hit, Pete's. So
best wine store in Seattle.
Still is, yeah, even new owner, but same idea.
And I don't think anybody else knows, but there's a second hub. We had told you guys where all the new grants were coming in, but I don't think we've had talked to folks since everybody, picked their locations. So Eastlake will now have 2 hubs, and the owner of Pete's just signed the memo of agreement so that their second hub will be down, one north in the Rogers Playfield and one south at Pete's Supermarket. So.
Great.
Pete?
Pete's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's like, we all know, if you know anything about wine, you know about Pete's.
Exactly. I was just going Can I move? Can I move
Yeah.
over?
Join us.
All right, let me check the chats really quick. Hang on. Oh, good. PSA stuff's going in. Okay. Just
Cindy,
gonna
there's
make sure I
something
wasn't
about
missing questions.
the ACS is doing an exercise on May 22nd for hams connecting with each other and the EOC.
Okay, thank you. I will get that in. So anybody else in Central Core? All right, Central East, I'm not sure we have anybody on. I gave the report for Homer Harris. Southeast, Ron Angeles, you got anything tonight? There he is. Ron, if you're talking, we can't hear you again.
I'll use my my saxophone mouthpiece. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Usually it's music class night for Ron on Thursdays. So
yeah. So anyway, during this challenging period, I actually went out and got my GMRS license. So I'll be kind of tuning into, I met with Jim Kinnery, who's my co-captain here in Rainier Beach, and so we'll be tuning into that Monday session here shortly. I have to probably schedule a meeting of the Rainier Beach hub group, and so that's probably one of the first things I have to do. I want to get in contact with Gregory Davis, and Gregory, I don't know if you recall him, he's with the Rainier Beach Action Coalition, and that's the group that coordinates the Corner Greeter program, which are these pop-up information tents that these youth set up on Friday evenings here in Rainier Beach, and so I'm hoping to do some outreach with them. And Susan Sanders and I have been pretty active on our Facebook pages, sending out information about COVID and emergency preparedness stuff. So anyway, that's it from me, Rainier Beach.
Great, thank you, Ron.
And I'll see you on the 5th.
Yep.
For beers.
For beer. And then Orlando, I don't know if anybody else I'm missing from Southeast. Southwest. So Erica was on. I've lost track of my folks. I see Johnny on. Welcome, Johnny.
Thank you.
You want to introduce what hub you're with?
I'm High Point Hub Captain. So we got our box and it's in place.
And did you get the right box?
We got that gray slanted one. I mean, the hub in the box grant. So I assume that was the one. Gray with the slant top. No, is that not the one? Everyone else got that.
It wasn't supposed to be slanted, but stuff will fit. But at this point, Ann and I need to talk.
Yeah, I haven't put the stuff in. That's gonna probably, I'm gonna have a event. I'm gonna try to get together the folks who have responded to my emails and say, hey, if we want to, have this is what the box is, this is what we're doing, and try to solicit volunteers for, regular security checks and stuff. I still need to I need to do all the stuff, but we got it. It's in place. It's secured. And after quite many months, of the journey.
Yeah, I think the key is if the stuff will fit, and maybe you can actually test that for us. Go stick that crap in there and tell us if the table and the canopy and the chairs make it in. Because if they don't, then we are really going to have to force the issue.
The chairs definitely will. The table is the only thing I'm really worried about, and the whiteboard. But yeah, I'm going to find that out this weekend. And,
okay, great.
I will let you know.
Thank you.
If you progress with that, the other thing I suggest is the locking system for it. Use combination locks with the combination on the end of the lock so that you can, otherwise you've got to have keys, and it's really hard to keep track of them. We tried putting a, like kind of lockbox you use on a house that's for sale, and that got stolen. So
what West Seattle did is we decided that all the hub boxes in the Southwest sector would have the same key. So what we do is we go get we buy the kind of locks that you can rekey. So everybody in Southwest has the same one key, opens every box in the area. So it's if anybody loses it, there's millions of copies around. I've probably got 15 made and sitting here waiting for new hub captains. But yeah, the combination stuff, when you get into the choice between key and combo, Cheryl learned some lessons around the combo. So thank you for sharing that, Jack.
So Cindy, question. When you say rekey, is that a new core in the key?
Yes. You buy a master lock that is specifically designed for rekeying.
Okay, I didn't know about that. Thank you.
Hang on.
All right.
And those locks need to be a specific size. It should be in the instruction set inside the box or something like that.
Yeah, it's called a 25 KZW1.
Kilo Zebra?
Kilo Zebra
Whiskey
1. I make up words, Westerbrook.
Wine.
Oh yeah, good catch, Jack. All right.
Kill the beast.
And then, so it looks like Erica dropped off. I know she's getting excited to have her grand opening, all her supplies, because she has private property. She also got her box just now, I think, too. And so they're planning on doing their grand opening soon. And I don't know that I saw her trivia night being scheduled yet. So, and then I don't have anything to report from the West, my own hub or anything. Oh yeah, no, yes I do. So I did a practice run with that one concern stuff. We looked at it as a Morgan community board. They're my hub. Actually, all the officers in my community group are always required to be hub members. So I went over some of that data with them just to sort of go, how would we talk about this with our community? Because it turns out we're right on the fault line for a Seattle fault earthquake. In the simulation they ran, it runs right through one of our senior centers, senior homes. So it makes us think about how we're going to do response differently. And as we figured that out, we will also, that's the third product that work group wants to do, is how can we educate our communities about the high risk buildings in our neighborhoods? So that's the only kind of hub thing I did in my own neighborhood. Is there anything else anybody wants to go back for? Okay. So as Laura says, oh, Laura, did you want to say, or I got a message here, says, thanks, we're still she's with the Time P Patch. So she's trying to recruit members in that Time P Patch area. So thank you for chiming in there. The next deep dive is going to be April 13th. It will be on the whole communities and maybe sheltering. Be ready to see the the pandemic workbook come out to you. It will have been scrubbed pretty hard, so we're not really sending it out for, massive revision, but it's more like, does it make sense? Did we miss anything? Was there some errors that we've looked at so many times that we don't see it anymore? But otherwise, it'll be pretty close to being ready to deploy out, and we'll figure out the, directions, print it and put it in your book, or where it's going to be in the Google Drive. And then the next one after that will be sheltering in a couple of months. Any questions or anything else, any topics you want for next month or next 2 months from now? If not, we get out 10 minutes early.
So the next meeting is May 27th.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the next hub captains. And then next deep dive is April 13th and May 11th. All right. Thank you, everybody. And have a nice evening, unless that was Brianna just waving or raising your hand.
A little of both, but I'm just
Okay.
wondering if, since Ann and I need to talk to you, I'm wondering if we should just hang on a little bit and just solve it now, or if we
You can
should
stay on. Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. I'm going to turn off the recording. Thank you, everyone.
Jason,
Thank
if you
you,
want to hang out,
Cindy.
you can.